without maintenance. And at the center of the chamber, waiting patiently, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Jake, Tony, and Dr. Carter stood frozen in the vast underground chamber, surrounded by technology that hummed with ancient power. "Do not be afraid," the voice continued in calm, measured English. "I am Guardian. I have waited 100,000 years for humans to return to this world." Lights began to glow throughout the chamber, revealing the true size of what they had discovered. The underground facility stretched for miles in every direction. Machines and computers filled enormous rooms connected by wide corridors. Everything was clean and functional, as if it had been built yesterday instead of millennia ago. "Who are you?" Dr. Carter asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "I am an artificial intelligence created by the first human civilization to reach this world," Guardian replied. "My builders left me here to protect their knowledge and await the return of their descendants." Jake looked around at the incredible technology surrounding them. "You're saying humans built all this 100,000 years ago?" "Indeed, Commander Morrison. Your species achieved great things in those early ages. Faster-than-light travel, advanced energy manipulation, medical technology that could extend human life for centuries. They spread across the galaxy, establishing settlements on thousands of worlds." Tony Rodriguez ran his hands over one of the nearby machines, marveling at its construction. The metal was smooth and warm to the touch, and strange symbols glowed softly under his fingers. "What happened to them?" he asked. "Where did they go?" Guardian's voice carried a note of sadness. "Many things happened over the millennia. Wars with other species, natural disasters, the simple passage of time. Some human colonies were destroyed, others abandoned their worlds to seek new homes. A few simply faded away as their populations declined." Dr. Carter studied the displays showing star maps and mathematical equations. She recognized some of the concepts, but others were completely beyond her understanding. "The Zephyrians above us," she said. "They're looking for places like this, aren't they?" "Yes, Dr. Carter. The Zephyrian Empire has spent centuries searching for remnants of the first human civilization. They call us the Ancients and believe our technology can solve their problems." Jake thought about the alien occupation happening above their heads. "What problems?" "Their homeworld is dying," Guardian explained. "Environmental collapse, resource depletion, overpopulation. They believe ancient human technology can save them, so they follow the old settlement routes, looking for sites like this one." The artificial intelligence began activating more systems throughout the chamber. Screens lit up showing views of the planet's surface, the alien ships in orbit, and the human prisoners in the camps. "They do not understand that the technology cannot simply be taken," Guardian continued. "It was designed to respond only to humans, specifically to the genetic descendants of those who built it." Tony looked up from the machine he was examining. "You mean us? We're related to the people who built this place?" "All modern humans carry the genetic markers of the ancient settlers," Guardian replied. "When you touched that machine, Mr. Rodriguez, it recognized your DNA and began activation protocols that have been dormant for millennia." Jake studied the surface displays showing alien troops moving through New Haven Colony. "Can this technology help us fight them?" "The facility contains defensive systems that surpass anything the Zephyrians possess," Guardian said. "However, activation requires direct human authorization. The ancient builders feared their technology could be misused, so they built safeguards into every system." Dr. Carter understood immediately. "You need us to activate it. The machines won't work for anyone else." "Correct. But I must warn you, activating the facility's full capabilities will announce to the galaxy that humanity possesses technology far beyond your apparent development level. Other species will take notice. Your people will never again be seen as a minor civilization." Jake thought about the 45,000 colonists imprisoned above ground. Whatever the consequences, he couldn't let them suffer or die. "Show us what we need to do," he said. Guardian guided them through the facility, explaining the various systems and technologies. The underground complex contained manufacturing plants that could build ships and weapons, medical centers capable of healing injuries and diseases that would normally be fatal, and defensive systems that could protect the entire planet. The most critical system is the planetary defense grid, Guardian explained as they entered a massive control room. Energy projectors positioned around the planet can create shields and weapon emplacements. However, the main control core requires manual activation from within its radiation-shielded chamber. Tony studied the control systems, trying to understand technology that was thousands of years beyond anything he had worked with before. Why manual activation? The ancient builders wanted to ensure that only humans who understood the consequences could activate planetary defenses. The control chamber is flooded with radiation that would be lethal to most species. Only beings with the specific genetic adaptations of ancient humanity can survive long enough to complete the activation sequence. Jake looked at the radiation. Warnings posted around the control chamber. "How lethal are we talking about?" "Without protection, exposure would be fatal within minutes," Guardian replied. However, the facility's medical systems include treatments that might allow survival, though the odds are poor. Dr. Carter was studying data displays showing the current situation above ground. The aliens had finished rounding up the colonists and were beginning systematic searches of the settlement. "They're looking for this place," she said. "Their sensor sweeps are getting more intensive." "Indeed," Guardian agreed. "If they locate the facility's entrance, they will attempt to breach the defenses and claim the technology for themselves. We must act quickly." Jake made his decision. "Tony, can you understand enough of these systems to help with activation?" The young engineer nodded, though his face was pale. "I think so. The basic principles are similar to our modern technology, just vastly more advanced." "Then let's do this. Lisa, I need you to interface with Guardian and coordinate the defensive systems. Tony and I will handle the manual activation." Dr. Carter grabbed Jake's arm. "The radiation exposure could kill you both." "Staying up there will definitely kill our people," Jake replied. "At least this way we have a chance." Guardian began powering up systems throughout the facility. Ancient machines that had slept for millennia came online, their energy signatures growing stronger with each passing minute. "I am detecting increased Zephyrian sensor activity," the artificial intelligence reported. "They have noticed the facility's activation. On the surface displays, they could see alien ships changing positions and ground troops moving toward the colony's maintenance areas." "How long until they find us?" Jake asked. "Perhaps 2 hours if they maintain current search patterns," Guardian replied. Jake and Tony began preparing for the radiation chamber activation, while Dr. Carter worked with Guardian to understand the defensive systems. The facility contained weapons and shields that could disable entire fleets, but only if properly activated. "The automated defense drones are coming online," Guardian reported. However, the main planetary shields require the manual activation sequence. Tony had modified his engineering suit with ancient technology to provide additional radiation protection. It wouldn't be enough to guarantee survival, but it might give him the time needed to complete his part of the activation. "Jake," Dr. Carter called from her control station. "I'm detecting movement in space. More ships are arriving." The displays showed additional Zephyrian vessels dropping out of hyperspace. The alien fleet was growing stronger, but they were also bringing more ships into range of the facility's defensive systems. "It's now or never," Jake said. He and Tony entered the radiation chamber, carrying the activation devices Guardian had provided. The chamber was filled with ancient control panels and energy conduits that pulsed with deadly radiation. Jake could feel the radiation immediately, even through his protective gear. His skin began to tingle, then burn as he worked on the primary activation sequence. Tony operated the secondary controls, his engineering training helping him understand the alien technology. Sweat poured down his face as the radiation affected his body, but he continued working. "Primary activation sequence complete," Jake reported over the radio. "Secondary controls responding," Tony added, though his voice sounded weak. Dr. Carter watched their vital signs from the control room. Both men were being exposed to lethal levels of radiation, but they were still functioning. "Guardian? How much longer?" she asked. 30 seconds for full activation," the artificial intelligence replied. Above ground, alien sensors had finally located the facility's entrance. Zephyrian troops were moving toward the hidden opening, carrying heavy weapons capable of breaching the ancient defenses. "Lisa," Jake called over the radio, his voice strained. "Initiate defensive systems the moment we complete activation." "Ready," she replied, her hands poised over the control panels Guardian had shown her how to operate. Tony completed his part of the sequence and collapsed against a control panel, overcome by radiation sickness. Jake finished the final AC. The joint expedition arrived at the dead world 3 days later. Both human and Zephyrian ships formed a circle around the gray planet that had no name. From space, it looked like a ball of rock covered in dust, but Amy's instruments showed that something was buried deep under the surface. Dr. Carter worked with a Zephyrian scientist named Morden in the Liberty's main laboratory. Morden was smaller than most Zephyrians, with darker blue skin and curious yellow eyes. Unlike other Zephyrians who acted like gods, Morden seemed interested in learning new things. "Your equipment is very different from ours," Morden said, as he watched Carter prepare genetic samples. "We use our minds to control our tools. You use your hands." "Different does not mean worse," Carter replied. "Sometimes using hands helps us understand things better." They had been studying genetic samples from both species for 2 days. The results were getting stranger each time they ran a test. The Zephyrian DNA was definitely based on human DNA, but it had been changed in ways that seemed impossible. "Look at this," Carter said, pointing to her computer screen. "Your people have genetic markers that match humans exactly, but you also have extra genetic material that no Earth creature has ever had." Morden studied the data with interest. "What does this extra material do?" "I think it gives you your psychic powers. Someone took regular human DNA and added genes that do not exist in nature. This kind of work would take technology far beyond what modern humans have." Meanwhile, Captain Ben Cooper was leading a team down to the planet's surface. The shuttle landed in what looked like an empty desert, but underground scans showed large structures buried beneath the sand. "Start digging here," Ben told the work crew. They had both human and Zephyrian workers together. At first, the two groups did not work well together. The Zephyrians kept trying to use their mind powers to move things, while the humans wanted to use machines. "Why do you not use your thoughts to lift the rocks?" asked a young Zephyrian worker named Talvek. "Because we do not have that power," replied engineer Tony Phillips. "We have to use tools and machines." "That seems very hard," Talvek said. "Maybe. But it means we learn to build good tools." After 6 hours of digging, they found something. It was the corner of a building made from metal that did not rust or break down. The metal was smooth and silver, like the Zephyrian ships, but the design was completely different. "Commander," Ben called on his radio, "you need to see this." Jake came down to the planet with Dr. Carter and High Archon Veltar. When they saw the buried building, Veltar stepped back in shock. "I have seen this before," he whispered. "Where?" Jake asked. "In my visions, in the dreams that come when I look at your people." They dug deeper and found an entrance to the underground building. Inside, the halls were dark and empty. But when Tony connected portable power units, lights came on. The lights were human style, not the glowing energy that Zephyrians used. "This place is old," Dr. Carter said as she studied the walls. "Really old? Millions of years, maybe?" They walked deeper into the building and found laboratories. The rooms were full of equipment that looked like medical tools, but much more advanced than anything humans or Zephyrians had today. There were tables with strange machines over them. There were tanks that might have held liquid once, but were now empty and dry. In one room, they found computer terminals that still worked when Tony gave them power. The writing on the screens was in a language that looked almost like English, but with some differences. "I can read most of this," Amy said as she studied the screens. "It says this place was called the Kepler Research Station. It was run by something called the Terra Colonial Science Division." "Terra," Dr. Carter said quietly. "That is an old name for Earth." Veltar was walking through the laboratories like he was in a dream. "I know this place. I have seen it in my mind so many times. There were beings here. They wore white coats and worked at these tables." "What did they do here?" Jake asked. "They made us." The words came out of Veltar's mouth before he could stop them. As soon as he said it, he looked scared, like he had spoken something terrible. In another part of the building, they found storage rooms full of genetic material in frozen containers. Most of the containers were empty or broken, but a few still had samples inside. Dr. Carter and Morden worked together to analyze the samples. What they found made both of them stop talking for a long time. "These are human genetic samples," Carter finally said, "but they have been changed. Someone took human DNA and added other genetic material to it." "Added from where?" Morden asked. "I do not know. Some of this genetic code does not match anything in our databases. It is like someone made new genes that never existed before." Meanwhile, back on the Zephyrian ships, not everyone was happy about these discoveries. General Krovex was the leader of the Zephyrian military forces. He was a large, powerful Zephyrian with dark blue skin and red eyes. He did not like the humans, and he did not like what they were finding. High Archon Veltar is being tricked by these creatures, Krovex told his officers. "They are making fake evidence to confuse us. We are gods. We have always been gods. These humans are just clever animals who want to make us doubt ourselves." Prime Oracle. Zarbeth was also troubled, but for different reasons. She had spent her life studying the holy books of the Zephyrians. Now she was reading them again, looking for clues she might have missed. The holy books talked about the time of making, when the first Zephyrians were shaped by the makers. Zarbeth had always thought this was just religious poetry. But what if it was not poetry at all? What if it was history? She found more troubling passages. The books talked about the first ones who came from the distant star. They talked about the great work and the perfect children. All of this could be interpreted as the gods creating the Zephyrians, but it could also be interpreted as someone else creating the Zephyrians. Down on the planet, the exploration team made another discovery. In the deepest part of the research station, they found a room full of records. The computer files were damaged, but Amy was able to recover some of them. "Listen to this," she said as she read from the screen. "Project log, day 2847. The genetic integration is proceeding better than expected. The subjects are developing the enhanced neural structures we hoped for. Their psychic abilities are stronger than our models predicted." "Subjects?" Jake asked. "What subjects?" Amy read more. "The new species shows remarkable adaptation to the enhanced genetics. They are stronger, smarter, and have mental abilities that pure humans do not possess. We may have succeeded in creating the perfect fusion of human intelligence and enhanced biology." Veltar sat down heavily on a broken chair. "We are not gods. We are experiments." "High Archon," Morden said gently. "Maybe being made by someone does not make us less than we are. Maybe it just means we understand our origins better." But Veltar was lost in memories that were not his own. He could see the ancient humans working in these very rooms. He could see them growing Zephyrian bodies in the tanks. He could see them teaching the first Zephyrians how to use their new abilities. And then he saw something terrible. He saw the Zephyrians turning against their makers. He saw war and destruction. He saw the humans fleeing in fear from the beings they had created. "What happened here?" he asked, though he was afraid to know the answer. Dr. Carter found more files on another computer. These files were newer than the others, but still millions of years old. "This looks like an evacuation log. It says the research staff had to leave quickly. There was some kind of emergency," she read further. "It says the enhanced subjects became hostile. They declared themselves superior to their creators and began attacking human settlements. The evacuation was ordered to save as many people as possible." The room was quiet for a long time after that. Finally, Jake spoke up. "So ancient humans created the Zephyrians, and then the Zephyrians turned against them?" "It looks that way," Carter said. Veltar stood up slowly. His silver eyes were full of pain. "My people have spent millions of years thinking we were gods, but we are not gods. We are children who killed our parents." "You did not kill anyone," Ben said firmly. "That was millions of years ago. You are not responsible for what your ancestors did." But Veltar was not listening. He was thinking about all the species that worshiped the Zephyrians as gods, all the civilizations that served them, all the power they had claimed as their right because they believed they were divine. "We have built our entire civilization on a lie," he said. At that moment, Amy's communication equipment started beeping. She listened to her earpiece and then looked up with worry. "Commander, we have a problem. General Krovex is coming here with a large fleet. He says he is going to destroy this place and eliminate all evidence of what we have found." "He wants to destroy the truth?" Dr. Carter asked. "He says the truth is a lie created by humans to weaken the Zephyrians. He says he will not let his people be tricked." Veltar closed his eyes and touched his temple. When he opened them again, he looked determined. "General Krovex has always believed that might makes right. He thinks that if we are powerful enough to rule the galaxy, then we deserve to rule the galaxy, no matter where we came from." "What will you do?" Jake asked. The UES Liberty moved through the dark space like a metal fish swimming in an endless black ocean. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge and watched the stars through the big front window. This was the first time humans had traveled so far from Earth. They were heading toward the Andromeda Gateway, a place no human had ever seen before. "Commander, we are getting some strange readings," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her control station. She was the ship's communications officer, and her job was to watch for any signals from other ships or planets. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of readings?" "There are ships out there. Big ones. They do not look like anything we have in our databases." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station. She was a tall woman with short brown hair who studied alien life forms. "Are you sure they are ships and not space rocks or something else?" Amy checked her instruments again. "I am sure. They are moving in formation. That means they are controlled by someone or something." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This could be first contact with alien life. Everything they had trained for was about to happen. "Put the ship on yellow alert. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we may have found aliens." Captain Ben Cooper, Jake's second-in-command, came to stand beside him. Ben was a short man with gray hair who had been in space for 20 years. "What are your orders, Commander?" "We follow the first contact rules. We move slowly. We try to talk to them. We do not show any weapons unless they attack first." The alien ships were getting closer. Through the window, Jake could see them clearly now. They were beautiful ships, made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. The ships moved like they were dancing through space, turning and spinning in perfect order. "Commander, they are trying to talk to us," Amy said. "I am getting signals from their ships. Can you understand what they are saying?" "Not yet, but wait. Something strange is happening. The signals are changing. Now they are speaking English." Jake stared at Amy. English? How is that possible? I do not know, but listen to this. Amy put the alien message on the ship's speakers. A voice filled the bridge. It was deep and musical, like someone singing instead of talking. Strange vessels from beyond the void. We are the Zephyrians. We are the children of the stars. We are the ones who rule the space between worlds. Who are you? Why do you come to our domain? Jake took a deep breath. This was it. First contact. Amy, open a channel. Let me talk to them. Channel open, Commander. Jake spoke clearly and slowly. This is Commander Jake Harrison of the human ship UES Liberty. We are explorers from Earth. We come in peace. We want to meet you and learn about you. There was silence for a long moment. Then the alien voice came back, but it sounded different now. There was surprise in it. Humans? You call yourselves humans? Yes, that is what we are. We are humans from the planet Earth. Another long pause. Then the alien voice said, This cannot be. Humans are just stories. Humans are myths from the old times. You cannot be real. Dr. Carter moved to Jake's side. Commander, ask them if we can meet face to face. I need to study them. Jake nodded. Zephyrians, we would like to meet you in person. Can we dock our ships together? You wish to see us? The gods of space wish to see the myth creatures? The voice sounded confused. Very well, but do not try to trick us. We have power beyond your understanding. One of the white ships moved closer to the Liberty. It was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than the human ship. As it got near, a tube of light appeared between the two ships. Jake had never seen anything like it. That is some kind of docking tube made of energy, Dr. Carter said. Their technology is far ahead of ours. Jake picked 5 people to go meet the aliens. Himself, Dr. Carter, Ben, Amy, and engineer Tony Phillips. They put on their best uniforms and walked through the energy tube to the alien ship. The inside of the Zephyrian ship was like walking into a dream. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled like flowers. Everything was smooth and curved with no hard edges anywhere. 3 aliens were waiting for them. Jake had to stop and stare. The Zephyrians looked almost human, but different, in important ways. They were tall, maybe 7 feet high. Their skin was pale blue and seemed to shine. Their eyes were larger than human eyes and were bright silver. They had long white hair that moved like it was underwater, even though there was no wind. The alien in the middle stepped forward. When he spoke, Jake could see that his mouth did not move the same way as humans when they talked. I am High Archon. Veltar, I lead this fleet. You say you are humans, but this is impossible. Humans are just old stories. Dr. Carter pulled out her medical scanner. May I scan you? It will not hurt. I just want to study your biology. Veltar looked at the other aliens, then nodded. You may try, myth creature. Dr. Carter ran the scanner over Veltar's body. As she looked at the results, her face went white. Commander, you need to see this. Jake looked at the scanner's screen. He did not understand most of what he saw, but Dr. Carter explained it to him quietly. Their DNA has human markers in it, not similar to human DNA, actual human genetic code. But it is changed, like someone took human DNA and added other things to it. Jake stared at her. What does that mean? It means they are connected to us somehow. Either we came from them or they came from us. While they talked, Veltar was having his own problems. Images were flashing through his mind. He saw strange rooms full of machines. He saw creatures that looked exactly like the humans standing in front of him. He saw laboratories where beings in white coats worked on glowing tables. But these images made no sense. The Zephyrians were the first race. They were the gods. They had always ruled the stars. There had never been any beings before them. High Archon, are you well? Asked one of his companions, a female named Zarbeth. She was the Prime Oracle, the keeper of their religious knowledge. "I am seeing things that cannot be real," Veltar said. "I am seeing the myth creatures in places that should not exist." Dr. Carter heard this and got excited. "You are having visions about humans? What do you see?" Veltar looked at her with his silver eyes. "I see your kind in great halls of learning. I see them working with tools of creation. I see them making... He stopped, unable to finish. "Making what?" Jake asked. "Making us." The words came out like a whisper. The other Zephyrians looked shocked. Zarbeth stepped forward. "High Archon, that is impossible. The holy books tell us we were born from the light of the first star. We are the children of the cosmos itself." But, even as she said this, Zarbeth was having her own strange thoughts. Some of the old writings did mention the Makers and the First Ones. She had always thought these were just other names for the cosmic forces that created the Zephyrians. But what if they were not forces at all? What if they were actual beings? Dr. Carter was still studying her scanner readings. "Commander, I am finding more strange things. Their brain structure is similar to ours, but much more complex. And there are parts of their brains that humans do not have. Parts that might explain their psychic abilities." "Psychic abilities?" Ben asked. Veltar waved his hand, and suddenly all the humans could hear his voice in their minds instead of through their ears. "We speak to each other with thoughts. We can move objects without touching them. We can see things that are far away. These are the gifts that prove we are gods." But Jake was starting to understand something. "Or these are the gifts that prove someone made you to be better than regular humans." The words hit Veltar like a punch. Deep in his mind, more images were appearing. He saw humans working in vast laboratories. He saw them taking human genetic material and changing it. He saw them growing new beings in tanks filled with glowing liquid. "This cannot be true," he said, but his voice was weak. Dr. Carter stepped closer to him. "High Archon, I think we need to work together to find the truth. My scans show that our species are connected somehow. We need to find out how." Amy, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Commander, I am picking up signals from other places in this star system. Old signals, really old. They seem to be coming from a dead planet near the edge of the system." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "High Archon, will you help us investigate these signals? I think we both need to know the truth about where your people came from." Veltar looked at his companions, then back at the humans. Everything he had believed about his people was falling apart, but maybe, in the ruins of his old beliefs, he could find something better, something true. "Very well, myth creatures who call yourselves humans. We will search for truth together. But be warned, truth is sometimes more terrible than lies." As the two groups made plans to explore the dead world, none of them knew that they were about to uncover secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. Secrets that would shake the foundations of everything the Zephyrians believed about themselves and everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. The first meeting between gods and their creators was about to reveal which was which. General Krovex's attack began just as Jake's team reached the preservation site. The ancient space station shook under the impact of Zephyrian energy weapons as Krovex's ships opened fire from outside the nebula. "Shields are holding, but they are getting weaker," Tony Phillips reported from his position in the station's command center. He and Captain Ben Cooper had stayed behind with half the team to defend the ancient facility. Veltar stood at the station's weapon controls, trying to activate defense systems that had not been used for millions of years. "I can get some of the defensive arrays online, but I do not know how long they will last." The preservation site that Jake's team had reached was a small facility built into an asteroid. Unlike the massive research station, this place looked like it had been designed for long-term storage rather than active research. The entrance was sealed with multiple layers of security that required both human and Zephyrian genetic signatures to open. "The security system is scanning us," Dr. Carter said as she and Morden worked together at the entrance controls. "It seems to be looking for specific genetic markers." "What kind of markers?" Jake asked. "Human baseline genetics and Zephyrian. Enhanced genetics." The system was programmed to only open for both species working together. Amy was monitoring communications from the battle at the research station. "Commander, the situation is getting worse. Krovex has brought more ships, and some of them are starting to enter the nebula." The security door finally opened with a deep rumbling sound. Inside, the facility was cold and dark, but power came on automatically when they entered. The halls were narrow and functional, leading deeper into the asteroid. They found what they were looking for in the deepest chamber. Row after row of cylindrical tanks filled with glowing blue liquid. Each tank held a human figure, floating in perfect preservation. There were hundreds of them, all sleeping the long sleep of stasis. "These are the ancient humans," Dr. Carter whispered. "The original creators of the enhanced species." At the center of the chamber was a larger tank containing a woman who appeared to be in her middle years. Her hair was gray, and her face showed lines of age and wisdom. A plaque on her tank identified her as Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Director of the Stellar Diaspora Project. "She must be the leader," Jake said. "If we can wake her up, maybe she can help us stop this conflict." Morden was studying the stasis system, controls. "The revival process is automated, but it takes time. Once we start it, we cannot stop it. If something goes wrong, we have to try," Jake decided. "Start the revival process for Dr. Vasquez." As the revival process began, the battle at the research station was intensifying. General Krovex had brought 30 ships into the nebula, all firing at the ancient station. The station's shields were failing, and several sections had already been damaged. "High Archon, surrender now, and I will spare your life," Krovex transmitted to Veltar. "Continue to resist, and you will die with your human pets." "I will not abandon the truth," Veltar replied. "Our people deserve to know where they came from. Our people deserve to rule the galaxy without questioning their right to do so," Krovex shot back. "You have become weak, Veltar. You are no longer fit to lead." Prime Oracle. Zarbeth was in the station's data core, trying to download as much information as possible before the station was destroyed. "If we cannot save the station, at least we can save the knowledge," she told Ben Cooper. "How much more time do you need?" Ben asked as he watched the tactical displays. Krovex's ships were getting closer, and their weapons were getting more accurate. Another 20 minutes to copy the essential files. "I do not think we have 20 minutes." At the preservation site, Dr. Elena Vasquez was beginning to wake up. The stasis fluid in her tank drained away, and mechanical arms gently lifted her out. Her eyes opened slowly, and she looked around in confusion. "Where am I?" she asked weakly. Her voice was hoarse from millions of years of silence. "You are at Preservation Site 7, Dr. Carter said gently. "I am Dr. Lisa Carter, and these are my colleagues. We are humans, but we are from much later in history than you." Elena tried to sit up, but she was still weak from the stasis process. "How much later? What year is it?" Jake stepped forward. "Dr. Vasquez, millions of years have passed since you went into stasis. The galaxy has changed completely." Elena's eyes went wide. "Millions of years? What happened to the project? What happened to the enhanced species we created?" "That is what we need to talk to you about," Jake said. "Your enhanced species survived, but things did not go according to plan." Meanwhile, the battle at the research station was reaching its climax. Krovex's ships had broken through the outer defenses and were attacking the station directly. Explosions rocked the ancient facility as weapons fire tore through hull sections. "Shields are down," Tony reported. "We are taking direct hits on the main structure." Veltar was wounded with blue blood running down his arm, but he continued to fight back using the station's ancient weapons. I will not let him destroy this place. Too much knowledge will be lost. Hi, Archon. We need to evacuate, Ben said. The station cannot survive much more of this, but Veltar was determined to make a last stand. He used his psychic abilities to coordinate the station's remaining defenses, turning the ancient facility into a fortress that fought back against its attackers. At the preservation site, Dr. Elena Vasquez was learning about the current state of the galaxy with growing horror. Jake, Dr. Carter, and Morden explained how the Zephyrians had become a dominant species that ruled over dozens of other civilizations, believing themselves to be gods. Gods? Elena said, looking shocked. That was never the plan. The enhanced species were supposed to be guides and protectors, not rulers. What was the original plan? Dr. Carter asked. Elena struggled to her feet, still weak but determined to explain. We knew that baseline humanity was limited. We could not survive in all the different environments the galaxy offered, so we created enhanced human variants that could thrive anywhere. But why did they turn against you? Because we made them too well, Elena said sadly. We gave them abilities that made them feel superior to their creators. Some of the enhanced species began to see baseline humans as weak and inferior. They forgot that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate. Morden stepped forward. Dr. Vasquez, I am one of the Zephyrians your people created. Many of my species still believe we are gods. How can we convince them of the truth? Elena looked at Morden with a mixture of pride and sorrow. You turned out exactly as we hoped you would. Intelligent, curious, willing to learn. But your general, the one who is attacking the station, he represents what we feared most. Amy was monitoring the communications from the battle. Commander, the research station is about to fall. Veltar is asking if we found anything that can help. Elena heard this and straightened up with determination. Take me to your ship. I need to talk to both sides of this conflict. You are still weak from stasis, Dr. Carter protested. I have been sleeping for millions of years while my children fought each other, Elena said firmly. I will not sleep any longer. They helped Elena to their ship and started back toward the research station. But as they approached the nebula, they could see that they might be too late. The ancient station was heavily damaged, with fires burning in several sections. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, Elena said into the communication system. I am the chief director of the Stellar Diaspora Project. I am the one who created the enhanced human species. General Krovex, you will stop this attack immediately. There was silence on the communications channel for a long moment. Then Krovex's voice came back, filled with disbelief. Impossible. You are just another human trick. I am not a trick, General. I am your creator, and you are my greatest failure. The words hit Krovex like a physical blow. Through the ship's viewing screen, they could see his command vessel stop. Firing on the research station. You are lying, Krovex transmitted, but his voice was shaking. The Zephyrians are gods. We were born from the light of stars. You were born in laboratory tanks filled with nutrient solution, Elena said calmly. I have the genetic templates that were used to create your species. I have the records of every experiment that led to your development. You are not gods, General. You are my children. Even if that is true, Krovex said after a long pause, it does not matter. We have evolved beyond our origins. We are greater than our creators. Greater? Elena asked. You use your gifts to dominate other species. You rule through fear instead of guidance. You have forgotten the most important thing we tried to teach all our enhanced children. What is that? That power without wisdom is just destruction. That strength without compassion is just cruelty. You were created to be better than baseline humans, not to replace them. Elena's words were being broadcast to all the Zephyrian ships in Krovex's fleet. Many of the crew members were hearing the truth about their origins for the first time. Some of them were beginning to question whether their general was leading them in the right direction. "Dr. Vasquez," Veltar's voice came over the communication system. "Can you tell us what we were really meant to do? What was our true purpose?" Elena looked out at the damaged research station and the fleet of warships surrounding it. "You were meant to be shepherds of the galaxy." "I will stop him. My people deserve to know the truth, even if the truth hurts. Especially if the truth hurts." But as they prepared to leave the research station, none of them. The message beacon had been broadcasting for millions of years, sending the same signal over and over into the empty space of the Veil Nebula. Amy picked up the transmission just as General Krovex's fleet arrived at the research station. "The signal is very old," Amy told Jake as they hurried back to the Liberty. "It is giving coordinates to something hidden in the nebula. The message is in the same ancient human language we found at the research station." Behind them, they could see the bright lights of Krovex's ships surrounding the planet. The general had brought 20 vessels, all bristling with weapons. His ships were dark red instead of the usual white, marking them as military craft. "High Archon Veltar," Krovex's voice came over the communication system. "You will surrender the human creatures to us immediately. They have poisoned your mind with lies about our divine nature." Veltar stood on the bridge of his own ship, looking tired but determined. "General Krovex, the evidence speaks for itself. We must face the truth about our origins." "The only truth is power," Krovex replied. "We rule the galaxy because we are strong enough to rule it. Where we came from does not matter." "It matters to me," Veltar said quietly. The standoff continued as the joint human-Zephyrian expedition prepared to follow the coordinates to the nebula. Dr. Carter and Mordun had downloaded all the data they could from the research station. Prime Oracle Zarbeth had joined them, bringing ancient religious texts that might help explain what they found. "We need to reach that signal source before Krovex decides to attack," Jake told his crew. "Whatever is hidden in the nebula might have answers we need." The journey to the Veil Nebula took 18 hours. The nebula was a huge cloud of gas and dust that glowed with strange colors. It was beautiful, but also dangerous. The gas could damage ship systems, and the swirling clouds made it hard to navigate. "I am reading something big in the center of the nebula," Tony Phillips reported from the engineering station. "It is artificial. Definitely a structure made by someone." As they flew deeper into the nebula, the structure became clearer on their screens. It was enormous, bigger than any space station humans had ever built. It was shaped like a wheel with long spokes reaching out from the center. The whole thing was made of the same silver metal they had found at the research station. "That thing is at least 50 miles across," Ben Cooper said in amazement. "The design is similar to the research station, but much more advanced," Dr. Carter observed. "This looks like it was built by the same people, but later in their history." Veltar was staring at the station through the viewing window. "I know this place too. I have seen it in dreams since I was young. We all have. All Zephyrians dream of a great wheel in the stars." "You dream about this place?" Jake asked. "We thought the dreams were messages from the divine realm. Now I think they might be genetic memories passed down from our creators." They docked with the station using the same energy bridge technology that the Zephyrians used. But when they stepped inside, it was clear that this place had been built by humans, not Zephyrians. The design was practical and functional, rather than beautiful. There were signs in the ancient human language pointing to different sections. "Life support is still working," Tony reported as he checked his instruments. "The air is good to breathe. Power is at full levels. This place has been maintaining itself for millions of years." They split into teams to explore the massive station. Jake led one group toward the central hub, while Dr. Carter and Morden headed for what looked like laboratory sections. Prime Oracle Zarbeth went with a team to explore areas that might contain records or databases. The central hub was a vast spherical room with walkways and platforms at different levels. In the center was a huge holographic display that showed star maps of the entire galaxy. But these were not current star maps. They showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. "Look at all these marked systems," Amy said as she studied the display. "There are thousands of them. What do you think the marks mean?" Veltar floated up to the display using his psychic abilities. He touched one of the marked systems, and the hologram zoomed in to show detailed information about that area of space. "It shows the locations of enhanced human colonies," he said, reading the ancient text. "But it does not call them enhanced humans. It calls them specialized variants." Jake joined him at the display. "Variants of what?" "Variants of baseline humanity. According to this, the ancient humans did not just create us. They created dozens of different enhanced human species. Each one was designed for specific environments and purposes." Meanwhile, Dr. Carter and Morden had found the main laboratories. These were much larger and more sophisticated than anything at the research station. There were thousands of genetic manipulation devices, vast computer systems, and tanks big enough to grow full-sized beings. "This place was designed for mass production," Carter said as she examined the equipment. "They were not just doing experiments here, they were manufacturing new species." Morden activated one of the computer terminals and began reading through the files. "Dr. Carter, you need to see this. These records describe something called Project Prometheus. It was an attempt to create the perfect fusion of human intelligence and enhanced abilities. That is what created your people, not just my people. According to this, Project Prometheus had many branches. The Zephyrians were just one of the enhanced species they created." Carter looked at more files and found detailed genetic templates for dozens of different species. Some were designed to survive in underwater environments. Others were made for high-gravity worlds or planets with toxic atmospheres. All of them were based on human genetic material, but enhanced in different ways. "Morden, I think your people were designed to be leaders and coordinators. Look at these specifications: enhanced intelligence, psychic abilities for communication, extended lifespans. You were meant to guide and organize the other enhanced species." "We were meant to be shepherds, not gods," Morden said quietly. In another section of the station, Prime Oracle, Zarbeth made her own shocking discovery. She found a vast library containing both scientific records and what appeared to be religious or philosophical texts written by the ancient humans. The texts described the ancient humans' great plan. They called it the Stellar Diaspora Project. The goal was to populate the galaxy with different human variants, each adapted to thrive in specific environments. Over millions of years, these enhanced humans would spread across the galaxy, adapt to local conditions, and eventually reconnect as a vast interstellar civilization. They were not trying to play God, Zarbeth realized as she read through the ancient documents. They were trying to ensure that humanity would survive no matter what happened to Earth. They were trying to give their children the tools to conquer the stars. But something had gone wrong with the plan. The later documents described conflicts between the enhanced species. Some of the variants had decided they were superior to baseline humans. Others had developed aggressive tendencies that made them dangerous to other species. The worst problems came from what the documents called theological drift. Many of the enhanced species began to see themselves as gods instead of advanced humans. They forgot their origins and began to dominate or destroy other species instead of working with them. The Zephyrians were not the only ones who forgot where they came from, Zarbeth told the others when they met back at the central hub. According to these records, many of the enhanced species developed god complexes. The ancient humans spent their final years trying to contain the conflicts between their own children. Jake was studying the star map display when Zarbeth shared her discovery. So all those marked systems contain enhanced human species? Most likely. Though after millions of years, they may not even remember their human origins. They may have evolved so far beyond their starting point that they do not recognize their connection to us. Veltar was looking at a different part of the display. What about this section here? These systems are marked differently from the others. Amy checked the markings. Those systems are labeled as preservation sites. What do you think that means? Dr. Carter joined them at the display. I found something in the laboratory records about preservation sites. They were locations where the ancient humans stored copies of their original genetic material, along with cultural records and technology archives. You mean there might be ancient humans still alive somewhere? Jake asked. Not alive, exactly, but preserved. The records mention something called extended stasis preservation. They put themselves into a kind of sleep, hoping that their enhanced children would eventually find them and wake them up. Tony Phillips, who had been exploring the engineering sections, came running into the central hub. Commander, we have a big problem. General Krovex followed us here. His fleet is outside the nebula and he is preparing to attack. Jake looked at the massive station around them. Can this place defend itself? I do not know. The weapon systems are millions of years old. I am not sure they still work. Veltar closed his eyes and reached out with his psychic abilities, trying to contact Krovex. General,